Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Sweet Tooth Season 2, Episode 6. Great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So first and foremost, we're immediately picking up where the last episode left off, and I love Amy kind of having the shoe on the other foot now. She gets to kind of troll Abbott and kind of gets to like talk back to him and stuff like that. He's like, when I find you, I'm going to, he said something and she was just like, oh, I bet you've never done anything with a woman. Like, she was making a point like that. I was like, Jesus, going for all the blows that she can, because it's like, yeah, like, the fact is, you act like you're so tough, but, because he's like, yeah, I took this place from you. She's like, yeah, but you lost to me and my 12 kids, your entire army. It took your entire army to take down me and my 12 kids, which even some of his men were laughing about it. It's like, yeah, he's not the type of, he has too much of an ego to let that pass. So he was so blinded by his, like, wanting to take her down, because that was the point. The point was to provoke him. So they dropped the, like, I didn't even realize when they dropped the flowers. I was like, flowers, flower power. It didn't even click in my head, like, oh, right, the flowers. I'm like, but what would that, because at first I'm like, oh, that's going to make them hallucinate. But then I had to think, no, you idiot, the flowers make hybrids hallucinate. Like, the thing is, it represents the presence of the sick, but we don't know what it really would do to a human. Would it make a human sick? That's kind of believed to be the case. But and Abbott's walking around with no mask on, so I was like, why are you, like, because everyone else is panicking, covering up their mouths, like, he's just kind of walking around like it's nothing, I guess, because he has to show strength of, like, hey, I'm not afraid of anything. You can be you could be drowning in fear, but me, I'm gonna be your leader. I'm gonna be the one that shows strength in this moment. So, but once again, he was so blinded by his rage, he didn't see Amy, like, hit him with the rope-a-dope. She tricked him, because they're not even real purple flowers. They're just plastic flowers meant to make him think they were the purple flowers that come about because of the sick. So it got him out of the zoo because he was unwilling to give up the zoo. It was because, is it because you really need it? It's like, no, you have Evergreen, but to be fair, he needed an operational base. Evergreen is going to be its own thing. It's going to be a citadel of its own, but this was supposed to be your base of operation too. His pride also won't let him let Amy take it back. It's like, no. I took this. I'm not giving it back. Not a square inch of this, not a brick. It's going to be taken back from me because this is mine. So I think it's probably more so than that. I mean, maybe, like I said, maybe there was some, like, tactical use for the place, but it's also, I'm not giving that woman an inch, so. Obviously, she's handling things on the front, like on the ground, able to sneak in while, because I forgot that was the point of the plan, to, like, draw a lot of Abbott's men away. That was the point. I'd actually completely forgotten about it. Because, I mean, to be fair, it's like, they still kept going with the plan. It's just like, obviously, Jeopard's not a part of it. But Dolly and the Air Lords are dropping what they call junk bombs, basically anything that isn't worth anything. Because we did see, like, almost, it looked like it was like a mascot or something, like one of those giant, like, mascots you see to, like, a food restaurant or something like that. We saw one of them sitting in one of the planes, so I guess that's one of the junk bombs. It's like, yeah, it's something that we found that we could use as ammunition that kind of serves no other purpose other than being a junk bomb. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Doesn't seem like Dolly or any of her people died, because Abbott was shooting them all down. I mean, but it's like they crashed, but it don't sound like they're like any like fiery explosion deaths or anything. It seems like, nah, they're still out and about, especially Rufus. I was like, yo, he's intent on getting this tank. And I do find it funny because it didn't even click in my head. I'm like, oh man, all the kids are together. And then when Rufus was alone with something, I was like, wait, what's that? And it turned out to be Bobby. I was like, I forgot about Bobby. We've all forgot about Bobby in like the hustle and bustle, everything, which is kind of sad. It's like, oh, we remember to get Wendy, not Bobby, but it's like, nah, Bobby's okay. He can dig and get out. But he's also with Rufus, which I think Rufus found a good pal. Like, yo, you're going to be kind of my partner in crime. Like, wait, Bobby, do you know where the tanks are? He's like, uh-huh. He's like, okay, let's go. So all that like hybrid, like diss talking he was doing last episode, he's going to have a different tune now that he's got his tank because of his newfound buddy, Bobby. So I think that's going to be an interesting duo. Like, I think he's going to be singing a different tune going forward. But while that's all going down, we have Gus and Jeopard. I love Jeopard's like, all right, you got to do this. But Gus is like, no. He's like, come on, kid. We don't have time to argue. He's like, no. Here, wouldn't it be better to pick the lot? And he's like, good going, kid. It's like, yeah, Gus ain't the same kid. Like, he's learned a lot. He's changed a bit in the time you've been apart. But, like, he wants to get out of there. But Gus is like, no, I'm not leaving without them, and neither are you. And I think for Jeopard, it's just kind of like, I think he likes seeing, because, like, right, like, the kid's, he's grown in that time you've been away. And it's like, you're still the same kid, but you've also grown so much, you've had to grow in the time we've been apart. And just to kind of, and he's just like, all right, follow your lead, kid. We'll rescue the others. They're trying to, Wendy's going to go try and find Gus. The others were, because all the moving last men around, they were trapped. And I love that. It's like, oh, let's create a pulley system and let's get everybody up. I thought with the elephant kid, I thought like, oh man, they're going to need well, if Jeopard's here, maybe he can help pull them up or something. I thought that's where it was going to go. Luckily, Jeopard and Gus showed up when they did because the last men were there. And I love that Jeopard went toe-to-toe with the guy. Once again, his name's just Hulk. They haven't really given him a name, but we'll call him that just because the character might actually not actually have a name. But either way, I like Jeopard and him going toe-to-toe. Also speaks volumes that Jeopard didn't kill the guy. I mean, he's killed last men before. We saw, episode 2 of last season. He killed last men, but I think he just knocked the dude out. I did like the, grabbing him, holding him above his head, and kind of, doing almost like the Bane Batman break. Obviously not over his knee, but just kind of threw him down. It is beautiful how it ultimately ended up all working out like that. They're all kind of united. Obviously, Amy went to the kennel and found that one dude. He was running his mouth because he didn't realize who he was talking to. He's like, oh, I'm going to find those kids. And when I do, he's like, wait, yours? She's like, yeah. And she doesn't even prod him with the prod. She just smacks him. Who knows what else she did to him. She might have just straight up killed him because it's like, oh, you want to talk about my kids like that? You want to threaten my kids like that? Bet. I got you. She also goes and burns down Adi's research, which obviously, those are the only recordings that Birdie had left behind. So with that went any, knowledge of, the only person who has any, Adi would just have to remember what he knows off the top of his head, because all the written down notes, he can't even pull from the Birdie recording anymore, because now that's toast. So all that was left at Fort Smith just went up in smokes, which is beautiful in a lot of regards, because now no one can fully replicate it. Adi has some pieces to the puzzle. There's probably a lot of that might still be in his brain, but we don't know. But at the very least, he's the only one with that information, because Johnny's job was to get Adi to Evergreen so he could be safe there. It's like, right, we got to protect the guy who can make the cures, which, because he still doesn't know that the cure it's a failure. So he's still being sold on Adi's bill of goods. And Johnny actually being the good guy in this situation, being like, right, he's the one that convinced Adi to find, because Adi's like, no, but what about my research? He's like, no, the research isn't important. The most important thing is your wife. And Adi was like, yeah, you're right, because she's the reason why you did all this in the first place. And so Johnny gave them an out, right, I'm not going to take you to Evergreen. Use this chaos as an opportunity to go anywhere. And Johnny doesn't want to go because he's like, I got to stick by, my brother needs me. Just it's like, right, for Ronnie, it's like, well, Adi needs me. So it's kind of, once again, it's that reciprocal situation, so, which was very, very sweet of Johnny, because for him it's like, I'm glad I actually got to meet you, Ronnie. You ended up helping me in so many regards. And I think being around Johnny also helped Ronnie forge her into who she became over the course of the season. Once again, he helped change her perspective on the hybrids and everything. So now it's like, hey, we can go, but for Adi, it's still the thing of, if we go, you're going to die, because we don't have any reserve cures or anything. You will die in a month or whatever. Where can we go? If I stay here with the research, I can save you. But for her, it's like, no, I've been living on borrowed time for 9 years. I've been running for my life for 9 years. I am tired. I just want to live. Let us be together. Yes, it might be for a limited amount of time, but at least we'll be together and we'll be free. And I love the juxtaposition with the beginning of the episode, where we kind of got an early stage in Adi and Ronnie's relationship. They were staying at a place, and even the Ganesh statue being like a gift from his mom when he went off to college, so that he always kind of have a part of his home with him, essentially. Like, hey, no matter where you go, home will always be a part way with you, and that's always been something. And obviously, like, Ronnie was staring at it like when she was after she got taken back to the room initially. So it's like, right, let's go. But during the chaos of their escape, Addie saw Gus's horn and he thought, antler, and he's like, he's the missing piece. He's special. We can make this happen. But Ronnie's like, let it go. Why can't you let it go? And it's what I said before. He's done too much. It's like, we've gone through too much. We've called, like, everything they did even last season, like all that he did, fought tooth and nail to save her, to find a cure, mitigate her situation with everything with Dr. Bell, and then taking over Dr. Bell's research, covering up her murder so that no one could find out about Ronnie being infected. The lady that was kind of like the main head honcho of that community they were in, that plus the two hybrids he's already killed, working with a monster like Abbott, though I side with him more now because I am a little more sympathetic to his cause. All of that is like, I've done too much to go back now, because once again, it's the line I said last episode that Adi even says this episode. It cannot all be for nothing. Very similar to another story that's come out recently that's been in the post-apocalyptic nature of this can't all be for nothing, no half measures. So it is that thing of, but like I said, it's also in conjunction with Adi being able to be the one who brings the cure. Like, I think it is, once again, there is selflessness there, but there is also selfishness of like, I've gone this far, I can't live with the things I've done unless I'm able to do. If there's got to be a plus to it. It's got to have meant something. So he, even in that moment, you can tell it's like, he's like, I gotta go back for my research. I'll be right here. I'm like, I'll be right back. And I'm like, Ronnie won't be. And it's like, we know, because by that point, Amy had already lit the research on fire because she found out about Roy. It's like, one of my children is dead, and now looking at that lab and just the mad scientist lab, so she just had it enough. It's like, right. It's so interesting how these stories are so intertwined. Like, Adi and Amy have never met, but their stories collided in that moment. Because for her, it's like, I'm not thinking about the scientists behind it. I mean, sure, whoever they are, screw them. I thought it'd be really interesting if they ever met face to face. Still room for that to happen, but it's also like a middle finger to Abbott and everything that he represents. And it's like, right, this is payback for killing one of my children. I'm going to burn this place to the ground. So by the time Adi got back, it's like, it's already on fire. He goes to try and tell Ronnie, but Ronnie's already left. Because he's not the man she loved anymore. Like, who he was, he's too far gone. You know, he went so far. And it is also that thing of, yes, he went this far from me, but he won't come back. Like, even he kind of admitted last episode there was kind of no going back. And he was never going to let this go. Even if they had left together after he found out about the research, but he had an opportunity to walk away. And now it's like, you walked away with nothing. You don't have the cure. You don't have Ronnie, which I'm curious to see how Abbott feels about that. But I get the difference is like, right, Addie doesn't need the motivation anymore. You know, he even said like, oh, I don't need it anymore. But now he extra doesn't need it because Ronnie's gone, and maybe in his mind is like, hey, if I still do that research, she might not be around, but I still have like a month to find the cure, because if I find it, she can still live. So, but Ronnie does seem like she's happy because for the first time in forever, she is free. And this isn't just about Abbott. This is about, she's been running from the sick for 9 years. And it's like, right, I've accepted my fate. I'm going to live my life. I'm going to be free. Like, the weight has been lifted off of her shoulders for the first time. It sucks that Addie can't be there, but for her, it's just like, you would just be another thing kind of dragging me back. Like, not unless you're able to change and try and track her down in that time frame, but clock is ticking on that, so we'll see what happens on that front. And along with all of that, we have the whole situation with Tiger, Becky, and Jordan trying to obviously get away from all the junk bombs falling down, but they didn't come to the confrontation because I was like, oh, Jordan's handling this Tiger situation very well. Oh, never mind, there it is. Because it's like, yeah, the Animal Army killed his dad. And so for him, it's like, right, there's no one around. Plus, you know, commanding officers wouldn't be too keen on you killing someone that could be valuable for information. But it's like, yeah, no one else is around here. We could kill her without any issue. But Becky was like, no, we don't have to do that. And she ultimately ends up stopping Jordan. He's like, what are you doing? She's an animal army. For him, it's like, for her, it's like, I can't let you hurt my friend. And he's like, wait, you're an animal army? He sets Tiger free, and Tiger's like, okay, what are we going to do? And she's like, no, back away. Just because I saved your life doesn't mean I've forgiven you for all that you've done, so get away from me. So, and that's nothing she can say to really change Jordan's mind, because now it's like, right, why I'm doing all this? I'm doing all this to save Gus. A friend of mine is in danger. And it's like, are you the one that killed my dad? And for Becky, it's like, I will never be able to tell you, because the last men were all just like people, like she probably does not remember the face of every person she killed. It's just like, you were the enemy and I killed you, you know? And I don't know how that's going to play out, because the problem is now Jordan, like whoever he was, who he could have been, meeting Becky has turned him into probably like, he's going to be a staunch believer in all of this, that he's probably going to be very ride or die, because Becky was like, you don't need the last men to protect your family, but to get revenge, yes, because for him, it's like, he liked Becky, and it's like, right, you lie, everything about you is a lie. It's like, no, everything she ever said was the truth. She just omitted a lot of stuff. But yeah, like a lot of that, what happened to her family, about teaching herself, yes, about combat stuff, that's all true, but just admitted the fact that she's Animal Army. And it was always going to come down to this. But like I said, I could see Jordan easily becoming an antagonist going forward. Whether that's something Becky and the Animal Army will have to deal with in the future or what. There's still enough room for that to come back even this season. But we'll have to wait and see. But her and Tiger end up meeting up again, because Tiger's helping her avoid the junk bombs. But it's like, right, you went off and joined the last man. She's like, yeah, you didn't know because you were too busy stabbing me in the back in front of everyone that mattered, because she had no one left. Her sister's still out there somewhere, she hopes, but other than like the Animal Army was the only family she had. And it's like, you took that away from me when you turned everyone against me. And it's like, okay, even Tiger can admit, like, right, it was a dickish thing to do, because she got so caught up in it, and maybe even leading the army wasn't what she thought it was. But now sitting back and recognizing like what she took, it wasn't just taking charge. I took Becky's entire family from her. We were her family. We're all she had in the world. That's all, we're all we each other had. So me, like, I kind of screwed the pooch. Because we also don't fully know like what the Animal Army's kind of been like without Becky. Like, they've kept going forward, but things just definitely haven't been the same under Tiger's leadership, because she's not the same leader that Becky is. But when it's all said and done, Tiger kept asking, why is this kid so special? And it's like, because his mom's out there, she's looking for him, and if I can reunite them, then maybe there's going to be a little bit of good I did do in this world. But Tiger figures it out. It's like, no, this is about Wendy. You think that maybe in some shape or form, if you can help Gus find his mom and reunite them, then maybe on some level you can be reunited with Wendy. And it's like, and that was enough for Tiger to be like, all right, let me help you out. Like, this is my way to make up for me kind of being a dick. But it's not just me, Pony, Rhino, the others. They're all, I guess, nearby waiting, because she was going to get information and confirmation from a last man before they like stormed the zoo. And now that everything's in chaos, not the best time to attack now that Abbott and them have kind of like come back and kind of like double backed at the zoo. But that's the last time we saw Becky and them, so she's probably like reuniting with the others in the Animal Army. So beyond that, we don't know where they are, especially in relation to Jeopard and the others, who managed to get on a bus, met up with Amy and Wendy. And obviously Amy's very grateful to be around all her kids again, even thanking Jeopard, because it's like, hey, you ended up not only, you didn't just save Gus and Lee, you did stick around. Obviously Gus had to convince him, but it's also Jeopard wanted to, you know, he tries to do the right thing. And he needs a nudge, but does the right thing in the end. So I think that counts. So they got out of there. They're celebrating, driving right past. I love her kind of giving that dead stare to Abbott, you know, because they'd never actually met face to face when they only talked over the recording. So now it's like, right, we've seen each other's face directly. Well, because she saw his face through the cameras and stuff at the zoo, but now it's like, no, we get to meet, like, we're right face to face. I get to see each other, and I like that. But then we get this sad stinger at the end where turns out Amy's caught the sick, which Now it's like, that's quite the conundrum because Addie was working on a cure, and the hybrids themselves, maybe more specifically Gus, is the cure to the sickness. So, but she just got her kids back, and now who knows how much time she has left before she has to go. Like, she'll have to leave them all behind again. So that's probably where we'll get that story conjoined with, obviously, Becky, because now her and Wendy will eventually meet up again, and it's like, yeah, she might be losing her mom, but at least she'll have her sister. They won't know each other. Becky remember her, but Wendy was probably still young at the time. She doesn't remember Becky, but at the very least, I'm sure Amy could probably go knowing that, hey, that the animal army will protect her family, her children, as well as that Wendy isn't alone in this world, that she does have some other family too, that being with Becky. So I am curious, jumping ahead, haven't seen anything going forward. I am curious, that could be one direction that's also going, but then you also tie in maybe Gus and Jeopard are going to go off on their own adventure, or maybe they kick it with the animal army and Wendy and all the others. I have no idea how that's all going to play out, because Becky still needs to get that tape that Birdie wanted Gus to have. So what's going to be on that? It's going to be interesting. But also there's Abbott, who has not given up. For him, it's like, oh, this isn't over yet. So he's a petty man. He's got so much riding on the line here. I could definitely see Zhang taking advantage of this situation. She already, once again, they kind of didn't make too much of a note of it, but when she, her men blasted Dutch and Voss's people, once again, I would assume they were still there. That wasn't just remnants of Dutch and Voss's people. I'm sure that was all of them and Voss and Dutch's people. So once again, the people back home, once again, do they just fall in line to Zhang, or does she kill them to take the resources? Maybe that's off what she's doing right now. So she's still kind of to be worried about. But any form of weakness, I could definitely see Zhang feeling like she could easily just wipe out Abbott off the board and just handle things herself. We'll ultimately have to wait to see where all this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode, second to last episode of the season, so it's definitely going to be interesting to see what happens. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.